so many of my close friends they were doing the case studies to go work at Bain and BCG, McKinsey, or tech. And I was like, I'm trying to get my internship at Tom's Shoes. Life is short, man. I don't want to keep doing this and then all of a sudden wake up one day okay, it's time, but I don't have the health. I don't have the energy.
I just remember it hitting me like a ton of bricks where I was like, am I sitting here arguing about a Chase promo or putting the mask on when I see every hospital bed in the United States full?
I think there's a more personal side to success now, where it used to be, am I hitting the numbers? Am I making the people around me happy? Am I delivering all the things that I need to deliver? And the thing that wasn't in the equation for was today successful was, am I happy? Am I fulfilled?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. It's 2026, baby. We got a lot of cool stuff for you. Took a little break, okay? Took some of December off, some of January, feeling good, recharged, renewed. I hope you are too. And if not, that's okay. We got a lot of really powerful content planned for you this year. And my mission really is to help elevate you, help you be supported and grounded and present, steadier. There's a different kind of way to lead. This is about leadership that you can feel, baby. I want you to feel it. So that's what we're going to be doing this year for you. And in fact, this episode today is really beautiful because there's so many of us right now trying to find purpose in our work. Maybe we're looking for a job. Maybe we have a job, but we don't love it. Or we have a job and we love it, but we're trying to find more purpose in it. Wherever you are, we're all looking for meaning in our stuff. We're all looking for meaning. I can't tell you the amount of conversations I have where people who call me and say, I'm working at 35% productivity. I'm not working that hard. I'm getting by. And then you're quietly wondering okay, how long are you going to do that? What are you going to do with your skills? How are you going to find meaning and purpose and excitement and joy? I understand. Transitions are tricky and no one likes to talk about them. And so today's episode is just for you because Michael, my friend Michael, who I worked with at Lyft, is a real wholesome individual. And I think you're going to love his story because he was brave enough to use his compassion, his empathy as a compass and leave a big tech job to go work at a nonprofit and be of service in a different way. It is my joy and pleasure to share with you this conversation, heart-led conversations with courageous leaders. This is what we're doing here. And my hope is that you will listen to this and it will give you a little bit more clarity in whatever transition you're going through, whatever search for purpose that you are inside of right now and navigating. So enjoy the show. May it serve you and may it give you some hope. My guest is an old colleague from Lyft, went to Duke, Northwestern MBA, worked at Target and Lyft and a few other companies, and he chose to walk away from the safety of all of that to follow his heart. I did this research, I don't know if you know this, but you're amongst the tiny percentage of leaders who leave the corporate ladder, especially MBAs who have an MBA who go into nonprofit work. That's by far the minority. Most people are finance or tech. And he is now the COO of the Adventure Project. And I have to tell you, he's living proof that you don't have to choose between being successful and doing good in the world. Both can be true. So, Michael, thank you. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to see you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. And yeah, hearing your introduction, I can so relate to that. That was the life that I was living. It's the life I had to work pretty hard to make some intentional change around. And so, yeah, happy to share some of those insights and so appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I have to tell you, first of all, you don't have that many things about you online, but you do have a blog from years ago where it was so cute. You wrote about your travels and everything. And I need to read it because I want to start here. You say, trips opened my eyes to the tough conditions that so many people endure on a daily basis. These experiences impacted me greatly at a very impressionable age. And I love that. So I want you to take us to where were you, what were you doing, and what motivated you to want to begin to do that kind of stuff in the first place?
Yeah. So the blog that you referenced, I think I'd be embarrassed if I went back and looked at it now. It was about a decade ago, but I was living in Bulgaria on a Fulbright grant teaching English. Had about 250 unruly students. And it was, I'd say, the first time I had made an intentional choice to go from corporate world to impact in some way. And I bounced back and forth a little bit, and I'm sure we'll touch on some of that. But that was the first rip the Band-Aid off moment. Yeah, the quote you shared about kind of exposure to people whose life was a little bit more challenging than mine started early for me. I was really lucky to have two parents who valued travel and exposure to new things and new ideas. And part of that extended to travel outside of the US. And so, while a lot of people's typical first trip outside of the US is, France or Italy or the UK or something like that, mine was to Slovakia.
Wow.
I went on a kind of a family ancestry research trip with my grandpa, my dad, and a couple other family members. And I think the realization I had was like, whoa, my life is like really different than a lot of other people's. And, we were in rural Slovakia in a 500-person village, meeting my extended family. And even as a middle schooler, it wasn't hard to imagine like, holy cow, if my great-great-grandfather hadn't decided to leave and come to the US, like I'd probably be in this 500-person village now. And while everyone was happy, life was hard. Jobs were hard to come by. And so I think I realized from that trip that, I didn't earn my starting point. I kind of inherited it just by decisions that those who came before me had.
And it's humbling when you do that. How old were you? Do you remember?
I was in middle school, so
Okay.
like maybe 6th or 7th grade, something like that.
Yeah, that was the same.
By the way, I was scared to fly overseas. Like it was one of
Wow.
my biggest fears, and I almost didn't go on the trip. And I actually think my life might have taken a different turn had I not had some experience like that.
Yeah.
Early in my life.
That was similar for me because my dad is Ecuadorian and moved here as a teenager, met my mom in high school. And then when they had me, he wanted to show me his culture. And so they would take me when I was younger. And I just remember like people riding donkeys, like people living in dirt roads.
Yeah.
When it would rain, the cars would get stuck and they'd have to leave the car and come back the next day when it dried. And I was just like, whoa, this is a different world. This is humbling.
And I think it's so important for more and more people to see that and understand that. And it's challenging because not everyone has the means. I was so lucky to be able to like have a family that could buy me a plane ticket to go see life in Slovakia and China and some of these other places that I saw early on that like opened my eyes to the life that people live in other parts of the world. But man, you see some of those stats. I don't know the number, but like the percentage of Americans who have a passport being so low, it's like, how do we expose more people to what life looks like when you're not in the richest country in the world?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad you had an experience like that too, where you kind of had your eyes
it was very defining. It shaped me, and I think for a while I always thought like people who take their kids travel. I still sometimes think this in the back of my head, where I'm like, why are you bringing your kids on the plane? They're noisy, or like leave them home. And it's like, no, actually, taking them places where they can recognize that there's more out there really puts your life in the context of something bigger, and it is humbling.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been on the other side of that where I've been the parent with the 5-year-old, the 2-year-olds, and like, we feel bad. We do feel bad, but we also have something we're trying to accomplish too.
Yeah. Now, I think it's also very interesting. I was thinking about why your story is so interesting for this show is we have a lot of tech leaders, and also there's a lot of desire to be more lead from the heart, be more in the heart. And I consider you as, I don't know if it's funny because you look at your, Duke and Northwestern and strategy and operations, and you think, okay, this is a very intellectual, cerebral person. And you get a lot of that in tech, but I felt your heart. I feel your heart. I feel like you come to the table with that. I'm curious, are you aware of that? Do you see that? Do you recognize that? Or you don't even think about that?
Yeah. I think I see it at times. The time where I saw it the most was when I went back to business school. So I was at Kellogg. I, at that point, knew that I wanted to study social impact. I wanted to take the business skill set I had started to develop at Target and point it towards something that mattered to me. And what I felt different when I was at Kellogg, and I was part of the net impact community there. But even so many of my close friends were doing the case studies to go work at Bain and BCG and McKinsey, or to go work in tech. And I was like, I'm trying to get my internship at Tom's Shoes. Like, that's a company that inspires me. Like, I had a completely different.
That's Blake Mykowski, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I love his story.
Yeah,
I still follow him.
Me too.
Reading his book when I was at Target was one of the one of the things that led me on this career. So I did my summer internship with Tom Shoes, and I got to have lunch with Blake
Oh, no
when I was there. And
way.
yeah, at the time I was really intrigued by the one-for-one model, and I was like, oh, this is a great example of being able to drive profit, but also like social responsibility. I'm a big believer in this kind of double or triple bottom line. And so Tom's is one example that stood out to me when I was at Target. And I was like, I'd much rather be like helping get shoes on kids' feet than, I was the cookie cracker business analyst. I was shipping Oreos and Cheez-Its out to, 1,700 Target stores. And so, that's where I felt different, and maybe that I thought about things a little bit differently than a lot of my colleagues.
I think for me, I also felt similarly. But then I also realized like, okay, but I need money. And I need to build my family and I need financial stability. So I kind of feel like I have to deal with this and bite the bullet until at some point there was a deep part of me that knew, okay, at some point I'm going to use this for something else. I don't know, but I'm in these rooms, I'm in this company, I'm getting exposure to this. I have a budget that I would never have anywhere else. Let me cut my teeth. Let me just try and see what I can learn while I'm here.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the biggest things I've struggled with throughout my career. And I think where I felt it most was actually where you and I met at Lyft, where, coming out of business school, I knew that I wanted to focus on impact. I knew I was interested in poverty alleviation. I shared a little bit about that, but I had also seen at that point extreme poverty in Zambia and Zimbabwe and Kenya and Tanzania when I was at Kellogg and South Africa. And so I knew that was the problem I cared most about. But exactly as you're saying, I also knew I wanted to be able to afford a certain lifestyle. And I lived in San Francisco, and like, I have to pay for that apartment. I want to have kids. Like, I want to get married, and like, you need enough to be able to do some of that stuff. And so I actually think that Lyft was a little bit of dipping my toe in to having a more impact focused career. I loved Lyft because of, and maybe these are some of the things that attracted you too, but like the mission and like value set aligned with my own. I saw Lyft as the good guy in the rideshare fight, but also like making $1 million donation to the ACLU during the first executive travel ban, free rides for the March for Our Lives, like gun control protests. And so I was like, at least this is a brand that seems to share a lot of the values that I do. And it took a little bit longer for me to say like, no, I need to actually like be even closer to the impact that I'm trying to drive and kind of dive in head first. But Lyft was a step in the right direction for me that let me both like make a living and make more of a positive impact than maybe I had at some other points of my career.
Yeah, that was the same for me. Like between Uber and Lyft at the time, it was very clear that Lyft was the more purpose driven, the more willing to take a stand.
Delete
and
Uber.
They were. Yeah, remember that? That was that was very hot at that moment.
Right.
And I would say it was very Hufflepuff to me. I don't know why Hufflepuff comes to mind, but in terms of the Harry Potter house, like everyone was very mission driven. There was that energy.
For sure.
Almost sometimes perhaps to a fault in terms of inabilities to make decisions, hard decisions. We were worried sometimes, I felt, to make bold, hard decisions because we wanted to hang on a second. So it's I don't know if you noticed that, but I certainly did.
Oh, for sure. I'd say the people at Lyft were not just wicked smart and good at their jobs, but they're good people. And like they have interests in making the world a better place. And I think that's what drew many of them to Lyft. And so, I was in some of those spirited debates too. I was evaluating when I was on the business strategy team, like evaluating things that we could do with our resources at Lyft. And I remember many a spirited debate about like, well, we need to mitigate risk around this. Like people could get hurt. And so I think it's important to have that viewpoint championed. And you found a lot of people like that at Lyft.
Yeah. You hit on something with the business school commentary. Did you feel a sense of pressure to have to go into tech? Did you said you felt like more of the, I don't know if minority was the right word, but net impact. I know that's a club, right? And there's always a few.
Yeah.
But it's certainly the minority in the school. Did you feel sense of comparison or doubt? Did that play with you at all, or you were very clear and it didn't bother you?
Some of both. I mean, I definitely felt the pressure. And to take a little bit of a step back, like I chose Kellogg because of its reputation for social impact. Their net impact chapter had won like chapter of the year, several of the 3 of the last 5 years. I don't remember the exact number. And they had a community and clubs and an ecosystem to support people who wanted a career in impact. So that's what drew me to Kellogg to begin with. And I did find that net impact community was like-minded people in a lot of ways. That's not to say I didn't feel pressure to do other things. I mean, I looked at opportunities with Nike and Apple and a little bit in consulting, but it was a mix of like, I want to make sure I'm exposing myself to what's out there and seeing what my opportunities are. But I kept coming back to like, I'm just not that excited about this. One of the offers I had coming out of second year was to go work at Dick's Sporting Goods. Like on paper, that would have made a ton of sense for me. Like I love sports. It was a great rotational leadership program. I had a background in retail. I had a skill set that I thought I could apply right away. And I remember chatting with a dear friend of mine, like outside, and like walking him through like why it made sense on paper. And he was like, dude, don't do it. You just don't seem, this isn't what you've been talking about with me for 2 years. And so, I think there were a couple times where I dodged a bullet a little bit. Walmart was another one. Like retail made sense for someone with a background like mine. And it did take a little bit of like sticking to my guns to make sure I didn't fall for it in some ways.
Yeah. And I like that you asked for help in the sense that you spoke about it with other people in your circle.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I mentioned that net impact community, but then also people who were on a completely different path. One of the things I loved about Kellogg was just everyone has a pay it forward mentality. And, I helped like consult with people about their career choices. They helped me. And, but yeah, sometimes that stuff's hard to open up about. I mean, you're in an environment with very capable, like high performing individuals, and you're doing something a little bit different than a lot of them. And it's hard. Like class selection, like looked a little bit different for me than other people. And the clubs that I was a part of, weren't the same as many of the people that I socialized with or engaged with. And so, but I do think for me, at least, like talking about it, sharing that struggle with friends, with partners, like is super important.
Yeah. For me, I didn't go to business school, but I ended up, on tech rocket ships. And that was basically my business school. But I always felt like,
which by the way is a pretty darn good business school, and they pay you instead of the other way around. So
yes, I know.
Well, things right.
Well, it's funny because when I was at Google and I would be interviewing MBA candidates, that's what they would say to me. They were like, it's cool that yes, it's cool. I'm a Stanford MBA, but also you're here and you're making money while you're getting this experience. And actually, it was like business school. It was very, in fact, that network is still compounding over time. And I recognize that's a big part of business school.
Absolutely.
The network and so forth.
That's the most valuable thing. I to this day, I have a network from Kellogg that's there when I have career defining moments and I need to talk to somebody, or I'm trying to learn about something that's kind of a black box for me, and somebody has done that. And so, the network is super important. But while you learn some like hard skills and soft skills in a business school program, like a lot of learning comes on the job, and there are just some things you can't learn in a classroom. It's until you actually do it and struggle through it yourself. So there's a lot of value in that way of learning for sure.
Totally. Now, I'm curious, what was the moment? Take me to the moment where you decided, all right, I'm going to leave a corporate job, and move into do something totally different. Like what was actually happening? Where were you in your life? What was going on? Yeah. And I specifically want you to explore the courage piece, because there are so many people who are listening. I have these conversations every day. Someone will ping me and say, I'm in the job. I'm going to the job. I probably work 35% productivity. I could get by. Like, I know I'm not, I know this job's in and out. I know I'm not using my max skill. There's something else, but I don't know. I'm not ready yet. Was it like that for you? Was it totally different? Take us there.
Yeah. I've done that a few different times now. The first time was when I was at Target. I think I mentioned I'd started as a merchandise planning business analyst. I was buying cookies and crackers and like having a great time learning the fundamentals of business, how to manage a P&L, how to work collaboratively on a team, the things that you don't know as a 20-year-old or whatever, 21-year-old coming out of college. Just learning how to be a serious person in the business world. And so learned a ton on that front. But also over the course of the 4 years I was there, I'd say around year 3, I was like, okay, I get this. I like it. I'm on a good path. But man, when my head hits the pillow at the end of the day, I don't feel that like jazzed about what I accomplished. And so I started that search for something else. I
So
didn't
you
really
were
know.
actually feeling that. That was something
Oh
that you
yeah.
were
Oh
noticing.
yeah. That's actually when I read Start Something That Matters, like Mikowski's book. And I was like, oh, there are companies that like feel like they might be a lot more interesting to work. And so at the time I was very interested in this. I talked about my parents and exposure to people who were different and maybe living a harder life. And I really wanted to get back internationally. And so I did a lot of research and ultimately decided to apply for a grant to teach English in Bulgaria. And I had friends and mentors saying, like, are you kidding me? Like, you work at a Fortune 50 company. You're doing great here. You've had a couple promotions. Like, why are you going to go leave? And I hadn't even told them that, like, I think I had a $15K stipend for the year. And so that was the first time where I was like, people are telling me to maybe not do this. But I also had, a lot of support from the people who knew me best, friends, my parents, my girlfriend at the time, now wife, who knows me, very well. And they encouraged me to try it. Like, if you don't do it now, you're never going to do it.
And you must have had something deep inside of you that was literally, while you're at this job, you decide to find a grant in Bulgaria, of all places, of all things. Like, something drew you inside.
Yeah. I think it was curiosity. It was an interest in this international exchange. And it was, I think it comes back to that empathy piece where, like, I wanted to help people who were, who didn't have the same privilege that I did in my upbringing. And so teaching in Bulgaria is the poorest country in the EU. It's not as severe as some of the work I'm doing now in Africa, but people live hard lives there. And so it was an opportunity to give back and learn about myself. And it ended up being one of the best decisions of my life. So that was the first time I really had to, like, make that decision.
It ended up being one of the best decisions in your life because
it helped me realize that I could spend my 8 to 5 or however many hours a week one works, doing something that I cared about. And I don't need to get top dollar to, like, I'd rather make less and do work that I care about and be excited about going to work in the morning. I'm not a morning person, man. That time in Bulgaria, I was hopping out of bed, like rushing to school, doing my lesson plans, like engaging with the students. I loved it. And I was like, this is what makes my heart pump. And so that was the first time. I'd say it was the easier of the two main times, because I was single. I mean, I had a girlfriend who I mentioned, but I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. There was nothing really tying me down. It was a short-term, like 1-year thing. I think to kind of expand on it, the harder time was, when I was in tech, and at Lyft, and there was kind of a few different moments that all happened within a 6 or 8 month period that were the thing that was really like, you have to rip the Band-Aid off.
It was personal, professional, or both?
It's hard to separate the two. It was certainly both.
It's so intertwined when you're in those kind of jobs.
Yeah, for sure. And like at the time working, weekends and nights, like you've worked at, all sorts of tech companies. I've
That's
seen
the
your
norm.
LinkedIn too. Like,
that's the norm.
Yeah. And so, I was working nights and weekends, and the personal side of it was, COVID hit, a global pandemic. My first son was born April of 2020. So, like, right when everything was shutting down. And my mom got diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer, kind of all in this like 6-month, 8-month period. And I think over the next few months, as I was like trying to be a caretaker for my mom, trying to be a good dad, trying to still like maintain a high standard for work, like I was having trouble keeping it all together. And some of it is like pandemic driven too, where like I lived in San Francisco. My mom was in North Carolina. My son wasn't immunized yet. There wasn't even a vaccine for COVID yet at the time. So like we drove from San Francisco to North Carolina 3 times and spent extended periods in my parents' basement so that like we could be there and get some time with my mom. And so while all that's going on, you can't work the same hours. You can't, the things that you thought were the most important quickly don't become the most important. They quickly are no longer the most important. And that was the moment when my mom died. It was the realization for me that like life is short, man. I don't want to like keep doing this, and then all of a sudden wake up one day like, okay, it's time, but I don't have the health, I don't have the energy. And so if I'm going to do it, I need to do it now. And so that was my, like, it was those things combined that made me finally decide, like, okay, if I'm ever going to do this, I need to do it now. And that was, 4 years ago now. And it ended up being like a really positive development in my life and career.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because I feel like I think about it in terms of the last 5 years. Like I think of so much for so many of us have shifted over the last 5. This 2020 from 2020 now, like we all have a similar story where something happened, that these tectonic plates shifted, that had us recalibrate what was important to us in our lives. I was at Lyft. I'll never forget it. It was 2021, and every hospital bed emergency room was full. And I was taking over the in-product messaging when you open the app to say, please put your mask on before you get in the ride. And we were debating, do we say mask or not say mask? Do we take off the Chase Sapphire Reserve promo, or do we keep it on? And I just remember it hitting me like a ton of bricks, where I was like, am I sitting here arguing over 200 characters about a Chase promo or putting the mask on when I see every hospital bed in the United States full? Like, right. Boom, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, this is not where I need to be spending my energy.
Right. Well, I think a lot of us have moments like that, and it's important to reflect on them. And I think the harder thing is to then like make a change because of a moment like that, where I think many people, colleagues of ours who are still probably in tech, maybe craving something different, some of them, and have felt like what you're describing, what I'm describing at times. But I think it's hard to make the leap. And there are a lot of different reasons for that.
Yeah, it is hard. And for me, it was somatic. It was my body. My body was like paining me to go into a meeting or to take a call. I had never felt that before. Usually I would push through it. Sure. Like, come on, get in, no pain, no gain, like push through.
That's a culture. I did the exact same thing, meeting after meeting after meeting, late nights, early mornings, like you want to perform. And like, I think everyone in those sorts of environments is there because they've worked hard, a combination of things, but partly because they've worked hard and they're high performers, and they're not going to turn that off all of a sudden. And I think when you're surrounded by other high performers, you keep trying to raise the bar, and then it gets unsustainable sometimes.
Yeah, it becomes unsustainable sometimes, and nobody talks about it because everybody's in the race. So you're not looking, everyone's just going. It's kind of like Finding Nemo. There's that scene, the East India Current or something, where the turtles go in and then they pop out. It's like,
absolutely.
That's what
exactly
it's like.
What you're talking about. Yeah. And it's hard to pop out. Like when you think about the pressure, if you're running this marathon or, flying through the ocean next to some turtles, like it's hard to be the one who's like, this race isn't for me anymore. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with.
Okay. So tell me about now you deciding, okay, I'm going to make another transition out of this job into something called the Adventure Project. What was it about the Adventure Project that drew you to it? How did you make that transition? Because you're right. There's one thing to be aware of it. There's another thing to take the awareness and actually move it into action and make the change.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I didn't know exactly what I was leaving tech for initially. I knew a few things. I knew that I wanted to help people. I knew I was super interested in extreme poverty in particular, like people who were living on less than $2 a day. I had seen that problem. I had seen the numbers behind that problem. And I'd gotten kind of interested in effective altruism, or this idea that, put your money where it can have the most impact and save the most lives. And so I kind of started with a pretty big funnel of different companies and organizations that were doing work like that. And the other thing that was really important to me was to work on solving that problem sustainably. I had seen a lot of stories. I'd studied cases in business school. I had read things that there's a lot of really well-intentioned international development work that is ultimately negative or neutral at best. And so I wanted to be very careful about finding an organization that was solving poverty in a way that looked more sustainable to me and long-term, even if it's harder. And I didn't want to be at an organization that was, dumping a pallet of clothing or food off in a community, only, a week later, another pallet's needed, and nobody's there. And so as I was exploring, I ran across the co-founder and CEO. She was actually a character in a book I read about another organization, Becky Straw. She's the co-founder and CEO of the Adventure Project. And
wait, so you heard about her from a book?
Yeah, so I was very interested in charity water.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I heard of that.
And I'm sure many of your audience members have heard of it. They're very big now. I think they're like $100 million nonprofit doing great work, getting people access to water. Becky was the third employee there, and so at the time, she was in her 20s, I think, spending a third to 2/3 of her life in sub-Saharan Africa, going from community to community, trying to decide like, hey, should we build a well here to get this community clean water? Do they have the right conditions? And as she was like going from community to community, one of the kind of uncomfortable insights she had was that there were wells already there. They were just broken. She would see sometimes one, sometimes 3 or 4 wells that some, no pun intended, well-intentioned organization had come in and put in these wells without really thinking about sustainability. Wells break, they need to be maintained. Who's going to do that work? And so she was like, this is insane. Like, I'm going to come drill, the 5th well in this community. I know exactly what it's going to look like in, a week to a year to 10 years. Like, it's not sustainable. And so she decided that in her journey, she wanted to create an organization that was more focused on long-term solutions to poverty. And so in that same use case, one of the first programs that she was really working on was, I want to train the next group of well mechanics to go fix all these broken wells that I saw. We can employ local people to fix a local problem, relying on local expertise, the people who know the problem most intimately, instead of like coming in from the U.S. and saying like, oh, I know how to fix this, which I think we all tend to do sometimes if we like to be problem solvers. And her story just really resonated with me, and I liked what she was building at the Adventure Project. And so I reached out to her. I applied for a job that I had no business getting. It was a fundraising job. I had a little bit of experience fundraising, but like I had to really think about how can I pitch myself as someone who probably shouldn't get this job, but like still thinks I can bring something to the table for this organization. And was lucky enough to be able to convince Becky. Hopefully, she's not regretting it, but convince Becky that I could still bring things to the table, and I learn how to become a professional fundraiser through the job, and continue growing the team and the work. And so it's been a really good fit. I've been there.
By the way, that's interesting because there are a lot of people looking for jobs, and maybe their job doesn't match the job requirement, or they see, oh, it's not a perfect fit. But how many times is it not necessarily a perfect fit, but you find a way to make it work, and you make a bet on it, and it can happen. It does happen.
For sure. And I think there are people trying to go both ways. A lot of times I hear more from people who are in nonprofits who are having trouble getting their foot in the door in corporate America or for profits, whatever it is they're trying to do. I found it challenging to go the opposite way too. I think there are fewer people going that direction. But because the roles it was a director of development role. I didn't know what a director of development role was. And development means fundraising in that world. I didn't know it at the time. But I had to get a little creative and think about the experience I had and ultimately convince myself first and then Becky that like, no, I can be successful here and I can help the Adventure Project grow. It's tricky to make a leap like that, regardless of which direction you're going.
Yeah. And one of the ways you convinced her was?
Yeah, I had a little bit of experience fundraising in the past. So when I was in Bulgaria, separate story, but my students were awesome. I had 250 unruly Bulgarian high school students. Like they taught me way more than I taught them. But one of the things that as a teacher, I found a little bit challenging or problematic is that, I would ask them about problems in their lives and their communities. And I would hear everything from, we have too many stray dogs to, the government is corrupt. The mafia has a big presence here and that's really hard. And so I'd ask them like, well, what are you going to do about it? Like, what are the solutions out there? And I got a lot of like shoulder shrugs and nothing. And it almost felt like there was this little bit of communist hangover effect. Bulgaria had been part of, the Soviet Union and Eastern Bloc. And so I decided I wanted to try to find something that would show them that they could have an impact, with their own brains and their own two hands. And I read a book at the time called the Promise of a Pencil by Adam Braun. And it was about his story. He had a shift similar to what I learned and eventually made a shift myself from, I think he had been at Bain as a consultant. He might have even been at Bain Capital, actually. It's been a while since I've read the book. And he made a pivot to founding an organization focused on international education. And I read his book and decided, you know what, I'm going to challenge my kids to fundraise the $25,000 it takes to build a school through this organization. And led the students through a variety of classes about crowdfunding and community action. And by golly, they did it. They created a website, they raised the money, they had a local talent show and sold tickets. And
Nice.
So there's a school in Ghana now that they raised. And so I had one fundraising, more legitimate fundraising experience that I could talk about in the interviews. And other than that, it was more about pitching why someone with maybe a business school background and a business skill set might be valuable at a nonprofit that's small and
Well, and also another piece of development work is, being able to show your heart. Like, you have to be real. You have to connect with people. You have to, being robotic and only caring about numbers does not serve you well in a development role.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So that I'm assuming that she saw some of that in you too, the humanity in you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I remember getting like fairly vulnerable and personal about where my motivation came from. Cause I think, Becky was sitting there like, what is this guy doing? Like he was just in tech. Like why is he here? What are his motivations? And so it did take some convincing. Like, I feel like I had to not just show her what I could bring to the table professionally, but to your point, like, show her my heart and that my motivation was real. It was genuine. Like, I want to solve this problem that the Adventure Project is working on. And I think you're doing it in a really smart way. And I want to be a part of it. I want to follow and help lead.
Yeah.
And so, I'm fortunate that she saw that. And we've been working together closely.
And I was just thinking, like, I bet you there's also, like, there's different ways to participate in this kind of work. Some people maybe decide they want to change careers and commit to this work. Some people decide maybe I stay in my corporate job, but I make enough money such that I can find a few organizations to double down on and support financially or support through other mechanisms. Yeah. And that's interesting because you're in that role where you can connect to those people potentially.
Yeah. Oh, and I've reflected on that very question a lot. Like, if my purpose in my career in life is to try to end extreme poverty, help people who are living, very, very challenging lives, is it better for me to do what I'm doing now, go work on the problem directly, hands-on, or should I try to continue in the tech world or find ways to do as well as I can financially and then give a lot of that money away? Like, that's a struggle that I've gone through. And I think where I've landed is it was right for me. I felt that I was kind of on that path, and my path isn't everybody's path, but I found that I needed to be closer to the work. Like, in this job, I'm spending time in sub-Saharan Africa. I'm building relationships with people who are, repairing the wells and, growing the food in some of our different programs. And I needed some of that to feel, like I was contributing in the way that I wanted to contribute.
I feel that 100% too. And it's interesting because before I took the Lyft job, I also had an offer to be the CMO of DoSomething.org. That was a nonprofit for young people, do something. And it was based in New York. I did the interviews. I got the offer. I also got a Lyft offer. And I remember going to a few people for help because I was unsure. And everyone kept saying, make the money, make the money. And so again, I was
gotten that advice a lot of times too.
Okay, I guess make the money. But then it hit me. And then my body was, when that whole COVID thing happened, I was like, okay, I'm remembering this. There is something in my life, my body, my heart was calling me to something else. And that was great with the advice they gave me. That was fine. But I ultimately had to figure out what was true for me. And now I'm sort of doing that work in a different way. I'm not working for a nonprofit necessarily, but my work is ministry work. It is nonprofit work. It is trying to motivate and share and help people get clear on things. Yeah. So it's interesting how your body, your heart, your spirit knows, the truth of it. And your job is to just pay attention to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think part of it is from exactly as you're saying, your heart or your spirit. Some is just I tried a lot of things that weren't scratching that itch for me. And it was almost like I should have I should have known
No,
way
no.
earlier, but like, I almost had to go through the, like, well, this isn't it, this isn't it, this isn't it, to find the thing that's it.
Yeah.
But so it's a journey. And I'm like, for me, I'm like as close as I've ever been to the type of impact I want to be having, the type of organization I want to be a part of. And I'm happy that you found that too, whether it was dosomething.org or it took a little bit longer. Both of us, I think, struggled with some of the same things. And I'm glad both ultimately like found that purpose.
And I think it's hard to do. And I think we have to talk about it more, because there is this feeling where everything has to be perfectly arranged and organized, sequential. The Duke, the Northwestern, the Fulbright, everything has to look beautiful and paint a picture, but it's like, it's not
so
always
messy underneath.
That's the reality of this. That's working as intended. It's okay. Sure. We're figuring it out.
Out of curiosity, some of the questions that I get now, having made this transition, like, do you ever think about going back, like to a career in tech? Like, do you still have that struggle? Like, I sometimes wonder, like, I think I've largely made the right sets of decisions, and I would have a hard time going back. But I reflect on it sometimes as I think about, like, I still, how can I have the most impact? And I'm curious if you struggle with that at all.
I did for the first 24 months after leaving tech. I thought about it all the time. And in fact, it would get to the point where I wasn't even grounded enough that it was uncomfortable to walk past the Google office, because I'd see people with their badges badging in, and it would bring me immediately to all of these emotions. Like, wow, that could be you. You could be in there getting free food, working, doing your thing, organize.
Yeah.
But then, again, listening to my body, like, while there's nothing wrong with that route, and that route is beautiful, and I did that, I know that something is calling me to do something else, and I feel I'm rewarded with peace. Like, I feel rewarded with peace to know that I'm on a track that I'm now paying attention to, and I'm trying to follow, and I can look at the other things. Okay, I see that. But then I check in. No, this still feels right. This still feels right. And maybe that will change. Yeah. Like, who knows? Maybe in 5 years, 10 years, I'm open to that.
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure. It's a journey.
But for right now, I feel very like, all of that stuff has been helping me and preparing me for this moment.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're finding peace. Like, my equivalent of that is just like contentment. Like, I talked about at Target, like my head hitting the pillow and like being like, man, what did I do today that like I'm proud of? And like, now it's like, okay, like we're making things happen that I care about. And it'd be hard to look back.
And the thing I love about your work specifically in the Adventure Project is it's not just, there are a lot of nonprofit organizations that will just deploy something or build something and then leave. And the strategist in me always struggles with that, because I'm like, why didn't you think of this? How did you not think of this? Like, isn't this this is obvious, right? But for a lot of people, it's not. And I like that the Adventure Project is thinking about it differently. Sustainable is the key component.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, our kind of like philosophy, you know, that old adage, like, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. I'd say we take it a little bit further, and it's like, teach a man to monetize fishing. And actually for us, it's usually a woman to monetize fishing or monetize something so that they can earn a living while also providing a community need. And so, that's what drew me here. And, in business school, I remember studying some like very sad and interesting case studies about development gone wrong. The one that sticks out was there was an organization called Play Pumps. I forget where the team was from, but they came up with this idea where they engineered these merry-go-rounds that were tapped into the water system. And the idea was that when kids played on the merry-go-round, the energy would kind of pull up water, groundwater, and then store it, and then people could come, collect water in their community. So they raised a ton of money. The story was compelling. It was interesting. They had celebrity endorsements and corporate sponsors. And then they started putting these merry-go-rounds in all across. I think they started in South Africa and expanded, and then learned some really hard truths. Like they started doing the math to understand, like, for this merry-go-round to provide enough water for the community, it needs to be in operation 30 hours a day. Well, there's not 30 hours a day. Like, that's impossible. And, they would see kids missing school because they're being asked to like turn the merry-go-round to get water for the community. And women who have just walked a long way to get water are now having to there's not a lot of dignity in having to play on a merry-go-round as a grown woman to then get water. And so it's that, there are a lot of great ideas out there, but I think it's more about like relying on local expertise and local communities, like let them lead. And that's what I like about our model is it's local partnerships. The folks who are doing the work, who are being hired, they're all local. The people who are doing the training are all local. So it's through a network of local partnerships that makes it locally led, which is, I think, a big part of the difference maker.
I think that's the key.
So you don't go in and come in with some silver bullet that's just wrong.
Totally. You have to be acclimated to the environment, to the people, to the community. It has to be sustainable in order for it to live on. I love that. Monetize the fishing. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's what drew me there, and it's what's kept me there, and it's what gets me excited about our future. And we're continuing to grow, and our goal is to create 10,000 jobs by 2030. We've created 3,000 so far, and it's there's a lot of work that needs to happen, but we're adding new countries, adding new partners, and it's an exciting ride.
What's the biggest thing that you're focused on for 2026 this year? I'm curious.
Yeah, finding a new local partner. So we did a big fundraiser through the holidays about finding our next female partner. So we're looking for a female founder, CEO who's started a social enterprise or organization in East or West, actually anywhere in sub-Saharan Africa. And so we're evaluating a lot of organizations right now, meeting with a lot of organizations doing really cool stuff in water or agriculture, healthcare, and we do some work in climate and clean cook stoves. And so we're meeting with these really inspiring, like thoughtful, some of the coolest leaders that I've seen, and working together to build a partnership, and then ultimately, grant them funds so they can grow and scale and hire people along the way. And so, planning to get out back to Africa. We're looking at maybe Sierra Leone or Ghana here in the next few months to hopefully land that partner. And stay tuned. It's gonna be exciting.
It's so interesting. You say something like that, and then you think about some of the tasks we had on our OKRs at Lyft. How do you measure a good day today compared to when you were at Lyft? How do you think about that?
Yeah. So we still have OKRs. Actually, I have a meeting about OKRs today to lock in a couple of things that we're still figuring out. So OKRs haven't gone anywhere. So I measure success that way. I think there's a more personal side to success now, where it used to be, am I hitting the numbers? Am I making the people around me happy? Am I like delivering all the things that I need to deliver? And the thing that wasn't in the equation for was today successful was, am I happy? Am I fulfilled? Do I have energy left? And so I think now, especially as a dad, as a husband, like who values family tremendously, like a good day isn't necessarily like, oh, I got everything done, but I worked till 10 p.m. A good day is like, hey, I got a hell of a lot done. We're moving the ball forward in the right places. It's work that I care about. We're on track to hit our goals. But I'm also like, I got to pick up my son at 5 o'clock from kindergarten. And so like, I'm going to leave then, and there's no way around that. And so like, I think I have a broader definition of success now than I used to.
Yeah. And I love that you went there. I want to go there because you're a father raising 2 sons with your wife in a world where raising young men, it's hard for young men right now for many reasons.
Sure.
And so I'm curious, as a father, how are you teaching your boys to be strong and compassionate? Because there are people listening to this who are fathers like you in these jobs trying to figure out how to make this work. And I think that's really, I'm curious.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's an ongoing challenge. I'm lucky that I had really good role models in my parents who instilled a set of values in me. And when I think about the values that I want to instill in my kids, I had great examples, not just in my parents, actually, but my grandparents as well, and my in-laws are also phenomenal. But some of the things that we really try to emphasize, I said this word before, it's kind of a buzzword in my household, is empathy. Like when we do something, how does that action make someone else feel? When there's something hard that we learn about, what was the experience that person went through, and what can we do to help? I think that's so important. And I try to, my 2-year-old doesn't listen to anything I say right now, but my 5-year-old is at least a little bit interested at times. And so I try to, we often, one of the exits we get off on, there's often a family out there kind of asking for things. And I try to, I try to keep, granola bars or some money. And like, I like to talk to Leo about like why I'm giving food and like how this person maybe ended up in this set of circumstances. And that like, there's a very good chance they just started off in a hard place and it's hard to climb out of that. And so I try to look for examples like that in everyday life. And then, yeah, just being like a loving, caring person. And it starts with family, like they're best friends one minute and worst enemies the next. Like we have our fair share of sibling headbutting, but trying to teach them, caring for other people. We talk about the golden rule a lot. I mean, that's pretty like, trite, but
but powerful.
It's super powerful. And 5-year-old gets it. He got it as a 3-year-old. And so we have a lot of reminders about, we treat people a certain way. And if you wouldn't want someone doing that to you, then you shouldn't be doing it to them. And
it's interesting because I have a lot of friends who have young kids and I observe this and I think, wow, how beautiful. But then at the same time, you go to work or you turn on the TV and you're seeing undercutting, you're seeing land grabbing, you're seeing this, that, and the other. You're seeing people say one thing and do another or be angry or unkind. And you live in this world where you're like, especially in this kind of work, I realize a lot of the skills I'm helping people tap into again as adults is the kindness, the heart, the empathy, the listening, the take a moment to see somebody and be with them. The capacity to experience the emotions. And it's just so interesting. Somewhere we try this as kids, somewhere along the way, we armor up and harden. And then we need to unlearn that stuff as adults. And it's fascinating. I can't unsee it.
Yeah. I totally agree. It's hard to find great role models out there with some of the way that the world is going. And I think you look at people who you really want to be leaders, like values driven leaders. And you want people in positions of power to have that empathy, to have that compassion, to have that care. And way too many don't. And I think, unfortunately, like good people have been scared out of those types of positions because they can be hard and grueling and thankless. But yeah, we need good, like moral leadership and moral ambition. It's lacking.
Do you
right
see
now
yourself in Leo in any of it? Do you see when you look at him or you talk to him, is there something that comes up for you?
A lot of friends say he's a mini me of myself. I see it in some of his physical characteristics, but I also see it in he and I both get laser focused on something that we'll go like deep on. And then Jack is my younger one, my 2-year-old is he's the more imaginative one and emotional one. And, as he gets older, I think I'll see more and more of myself in him. But right now I see more in Leo than I do in
wow,
Jack.
I love that.
But they're so different and it's so fun to see how.
Well, that's just it. That's just it. My best friend, Carl, who lives in California, he's actually a chief strategy officer at D-Light. So he works.
Cool.
I don't know if you're familiar with D-Light.
I am, yeah.
Okay. So very similar profile to you under, business school, decided to go and do work in Africa. And he has 2 girls. And the other thing that I have a real respect for is how much you guys hold as fathers. You've got your job, you've got the kids, you've got your family, you've got the house, you've got all these things going on. It's just, I have so much respect for how you manage it all. And so I'm curious what you do. What is your practice? How do you stay grounded? How do you stay grounded in yourself when you have all these things going on?
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard, in full disclosure. I'd say one thing that's really important is prioritization and like putting family before career, putting family before hobbies. Like I've had a lot of hobbies that aren't really hobbies for me right now because family's first and I want to be helping put the kids to bed. I want to be cooking dinner. I want to be picking up from school and, being the first person they see after, a long day at school. So reprioritizing is one. And the hard part of that is you push down some things that historically were a big part of your life. Sometimes for people, it's relationships, or friendships. Sometimes it's hobbies. I love to run and play sports, and that's like a big part of how I recharge. And, I went from at many phases of my life, I was playing soccer multiple days or nights a week, and on the weekends, running multiple times a week. And I'm down to like Thursday nights at 9 p.m. because it's after the kids go to bed. Like that's when I play soccer. Even like reading, like I've switched on. I love to read. I've switched almost completely to audiobooks because I can do it when I'm commuting to pick up the kids. Although it turns quickly into like Paw Patrol songs once I have them in the car, but it's an audiobook on the way there. It's what I listen to when I'm folding laundry, when I'm doing the dishes. And the other like thing that's important, and there's like I think a general shift here that's very positive is like shared responsibilities in the household. I think a lot of older generations, there was more this idea that, husband goes to work. It's a traditional family. Husband goes to work, earns the money, comes home, can kick his feet up because he had a long day at work. Wife does everything at the house and takes care of the house. And like, that's not my family. Especially following a shift to nonprofits. I'm proud that my wife has a great career. She's the breadwinner of our family. We're both so involved in our kids' activities. We share the laundry and the cooking and the cleaning, and there's a lot to do and it's hard, but like, I think one of the positive trends that I've seen is I think more and more, I think the notion of what a dad is supposed to do is changing. And I see it in my own family, but I see my friends going through the same way. And I think
you're a model for that. You're a model for that.
I hope so. I think it's way healthier. And I hope that trend continues. And
what's the legacy you hope to leave for your kids?
Whew, that's a tough one. Man, I want them to, the things we're talking about, like, I hope they someday understand about me and the choices that I made and putting other people first. Like, if I've done my job well, if when they, are reflecting about me after I'm gone and they are talking about, like, I went and looked at that blog that you had done some research and found too. And like, wow, dad was like somebody who cared about other people and like worked really hard to like make people's lives better. And sometimes like sacrificed, and I don't want to make it sound like I sacrificed a ton. Like we talked about my starting point in life and like, I have so much, but like there were some things sacrificed along the way. And I hope they see that. And I think most importantly, that they embody it and try to carry some of that forward.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. And if people who are listening want to learn more about the Adventure Project, where should they go?
Yeah. So first of all, feel free to reach out to me. Like, as someone who has thought a lot about this type of stuff, who's made more than one career transitions and struggled with it at times, had to like get the courage or overcome insecurities to make a shift. Like, I love talking to people about it, and hopefully someone hears this and this is helpful in some small way. So feel free to reach out to me at michael.pelehach, Pelehach at theadventureproject.org. And then www.theadventureproject.org. We've got a lot of exciting things going on, really looking to address extreme poverty and do it through sustainable job creation. And I'd love to chat about that if folks are interested in getting involved or raising their hand to volunteer or contribute in some way. Like I get to have a lot of those conversations and connect with people who value some of those same things. So would welcome that.
Well, beautiful. That's a beautiful close where I love your story. You're a role model for the modern dad, for leading with empathy, for, using your compassion as a compass. And I think people are going to be inspired by your story. And I love it. And I'm glad we're friends. And I'm grateful for you. And this is great. This is so good.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for saying it. I want to reflect some of that back to you. When we reconnected, I don't know, a year or so ago, part of what was fun to reach out about was like seeing your journey too. And I've had so much fun. Whatever you're doing on LinkedIn, you're doing well because I get a lot of your content. I engage with it. And I've been motivated by your story. And so I love what you're doing. Not only helping other people share their stories, but sharing yours along the way. It's inspiring and I love to see it. So keep fighting the good fight. I love it. And we'll continue to be an advocate and a follower.
Yes, we have to. We have to be out there because compassion is the answer. Empathy is the answer. We got to do this.
Absolutely.
That's it for today's episode. If listening to this brings up something for you, I'd love to hear about it. Shoot me a note at hello@letsgowithjulio.com. The Let's Go with Julio show is produced and edited by Ricky Gunton, and our theme song is You Are the One by Nick Deutsch. Don't forget to subscribe and share it with a friend or two who could benefit. I see y'all. I love you. Let's go, leaders.